What causes my heart to be troubled? The same thing that caused the disciples' heart to be troubled. When I get my eyes off of God, off of Jesus, and onto circumstances or onto people, it's then that things can seem like they are out of control and have a troubled heart. I am reminded of what I've seen in the Cascade Mountains on the highway coming from there into the Willamette Valley. There are some turnouts that are gravel that are for trucks that have lost their brakes, so they can turn off onto this road and it goes uphill and it brings them to a stop. Well, likewise, there's a turnout for us when we feel like things are out of control, and that is to get our eyes back on to the Lord. Welcome to Truth Talk with Ed Skipper, published 3 times a week. The disciples were experiencing a multiplying amount of mysteries, and Jesus says this to them as he approaches the cross in John chapter 14, verse 1. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. So one of the reasons our hearts do not need to be troubled is God is in control. Now think of the people of the world and what they can do when their hearts are troubled. Here are some of their options. They can convince themselves that the trouble that they are experiencing really is not that serious. That may or may not be the case. They can breathe or meditate or do yoga or mindfulness. They can distract themselves. They can go out into nature and enjoy nature. Or they can tell somebody about their troubles. And all of these things can be, or most of them, can be very helpful. But as believers, we have an ace in the hole. We have a God who is in control, and he is good. What is troubling you today? Would you remind yourself that God is in control? Verse 2 says in John chapter 14, in my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. So here's a second reason that our hearts need not to be troubled, that there is a happy ending coming. We will be in the glorious presence of Jesus Christ throughout all eternity, pain-free and sorrow-free. And this ought to encourage our hearts because we have disappointments along the way. Now, I've ran out of gas one time. I was taking my family of 3 children and my wife to Florence, Oregon from Springfield, Oregon. I was almost to Florence, within just a few miles, when we ran out of gas. I let the van sit for a little bit, and then I tried to start it up again, and surprisingly, it started. So I drove on for maybe a mile, it stopped again. And I did the same thing, and it started again, and I was able to make it to a gas station. And that's a picture of our life. There are disappointments and pains and sorrows and confusing things that happen along the way, but a happy ending is coming. Now, the Epicureans believed that you could have a state of being undisturbed. Why? Because they said if there are gods, they don't care about you. That's their reason for peace. Our reason for peace is there is a God and he does care about you and he is good. Hey, make sure that you share this video because there are people who need to hear it. And until next time, may your heart not be troubled, knowing God is good, he's in control, and a happy ending is coming.